Hello, I'm Kristen Baldwin from Entertainment Weekly, and I am thrilled to be here with Oscar nominee / goddess Penélope Cruz.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hola?
So thank you so much for coming and talking about Versace with us. You have had a relationship with the House of Versace, the fashion house, for many years, and you've said before that it was important to you that you speak to Donatella before taking this role. And can you tell us about your thought process and how that went?
Yeah, so I've met her a few times over, I don't know, the last 10, 15 years. And I worked sometimes with the House of Versace, all the people that worked with her for the last 30 years. So she's always been very kind to me, very affectionate, very generous. And when Ryan made the call, at first I was very shocked that he thought of me to do it. But then I thought about it and I thought, this makes sense. I could play her. And I said to him, I would love to say yes now, but I have to do something first. I have to call Donatella and see how she feels about this, because it's important for me. If she would have said to me, don't do it, I wouldn't have done it. And we spoke like for 1 hour that day, and she told me, you know what, if somebody is gonna play me, I'm happy that it's you, because I think she felt that I have a lot of admiration and love and appreciation for her, and that was gonna be there, and that's the way she was gonna be treated. So then when we had the premiere in LA, she sent me beautiful flowers with a beautiful letter. So this is very important for me, and not to create something, because of course the subject is disturbing enough for the family, because they went through that. And it's 20 years ago, but I'm sure it feels like yesterday for them. So for me, that was important. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, no? To say yes and cross that. It would be disrespectful, because I know the person.
Well, I was going to ask you, knowing her, and even once you received her blessing, as a performer, knowing her, how did that affect how you approached the role?
Well, I naturally like her and really value her strength and everything that she had done with the House of Versace, like in the moment where she was so broken, devastated, lost this brother that she loved so much. They built that empire together. And then he was gone, and all the weight was on her shoulders, and she had to deliver, and she had to be very strong in a time where probably the only thing she wanted to do was hide and cry. And to me, when I play her in a way that is the kind of a heroine, because she's been such a strong woman, and because all the people that work with her for the last 20, 30 years, they tell me, they tell me a lot of secrets that go on. But they all love Donatella. They all say a lot of great things about her, that she's nice to everybody, very kind. And this is what I've been hearing over so many years. So naturally, that is in me, my opinion and my feelings about her. So I could not play her any other way. Of course, there has to be like all the colors of that dynamic, of that relationship with her brother, especially in their creative process. But I cannot imagine that could offend them in any way, because I think I don't know if today you saw episode 7?
Ascent, yes.
The episode where we have all the creative fights, that's the one that you saw, no? Mm-hmm. So for me, that's my favorite one that we did, because in all those fights that they had, you can see such a deep connection and deep union and respect for each other, how they push each other to be better. And was my favorite episode to do.
It's almost like it's a love story, Gianni and Antonio, but also Gianni and Donatella.
Completely. I think you can see all these pictures that Bruce Weber shot, like over the years, and the people that spent time with them say they loved each other so much. And they didn't hide that they argue. They argue in the backstage of a show, like Italian style, like very loud, like, and we Spanish, we argue the same way. Everybody's gonna hear what we're saying, but they didn't hide it because there was nothing to hide. There was so much love, and they always say the truth to each other. So, and that's why I love so much working with Edgar, because we had that like instantly from day one. We had such a connection and really work in very similar ways, and we created this brother-sister relationship that we felt like we could trust each other completely.
When playing a real person, some actors prefer to do intensive research and others prefer to sort of work with what's on the page. For you, did you do additional research other than what you already knew?
I did a lot. I became obsessed with her. I watched videos of Donatella from morning to evening. Like everybody that was around me was starting to say some lines like they heard in the interviews in YouTube. She's in China talking about luxury in China. Like I would memorize different lines and go around repeating them like a parrot all day long. And this was like 4 months, morning to evening, watching. In the makeup trailer, I had like 3 hours every day. And that's all I did. Like look at her in her interviews, because the body language also was very important for me to get that, because she has a very, very rock and roll thing, in the way she moves. And the voice, I was obsessed with getting a voice that is not gonna be her, it's not an imitation, but I wanted the essence of the way she talks, which is so unique, it's so particular. So that I worked a long time, for many months, with Tim Monique, who is incredible, and he helped me a lot, and we just worked hard, which I love, and it's the only way for something like this, when you are playing somebody that everybody recognizes, no? At the same time, you don't want to do a caricature, you don't want to do an imitation. It's tricky, but we tried. And
I had read that you also had an appliance of some kind in your upper.
Yes.
And what was that for, and how did that affect your performance?
Well, it actually helped a little bit with the pronunciation of some things, but it was more for the volume here, because he had a little bit at that time in those years. And then I had all these amazing wigs from Massimo and Anna Lozano. They did a great job. Because there is not a lot of makeup. It's just that they chose to put the right things in the right places.
When you are, your performance is so natural, but as you said, there was a tremendous amount of work that went behind it in terms of practice and all the things, physically that were put on you. How do you balance all of that technical sort of knowledge and all those things that you have to remember in terms of speaking with making the performance feel grounded and real?
Well, I think when you have something like this, I cannot see any other way than blocking everything in terms of other work, other projects, have a very long process of preparation time. I think yours was like 5 months. And do all this research. I always say, for me, it's like making a soup and start throwing ingredients in and just move it and start to try to digest all this information. And the day you start shooting, you drink it. And then forget about it. And I believe it's going to be part of you. And then you don't have to be thinking about it, no? It's just somewhere else in you. And hopefully something real will come out of there. But I believe in that. And sometimes the result can be better, the result can be worse. But I believe that preparation is the most important part that I have when I'm going to make a movie or in this case, television, any character. I need that time so later I can forget about everything and try to be that person.
It becomes like second nature in a way.
I mean, I don't say then it becomes easy, because it's a risk every day. Is okay, but take the risk. And don't be scared of being ridiculous. Don't be scared of making mistakes. Like, forget about the result. But having all that information in from all those months, trying to create something, and then trying not to have all of that just here, because the mind is such a trap also, shooting, because it can take you out of present time so easily. So it's like, no, forget now all the theory and all that and just look at what the other person is giving you. Hi, Bob. I just saw somebody. And what the other person is giving you, things are alive, things are moving, so you cannot have 100% planned anything. You cannot plan anything, really. You can study a lot, but after you have to be free and just adapt to whatever is happening on every moment.
So the show shot several scenes at Versace's former home in Miami where the crime took place. And you've said in interviews that you felt a powerful energy while you were filming there. Can you talk about what it was like being in that location? You were in Donatella's bedroom in one scene. How does that does it help you get into the moment for the performance?
It helped us because the energy of the house was very charged because of everything that happened there. Especially the steps going on to the house, and you look at those steps and see, you think that those were covered with blood from him, and it is very sad, very disturbing. Then being in the house, in his bedroom, in Donatella's bedroom, and we spent there like a week. So I remember in between takes, all I wanted to do was be inside there by myself, or maybe with the rest of the actors and Brian, and feel that energy that's in the house that is very strong. I believe very much in, every place has an energy from things that have happened there, good or bad or mixed, but it has a very strong energy, this house.
And this was your first real extended experience with scripted television. Can you tell us about, making that adjustment of, primarily working on film and then going to something so different?
Well, it was my first time, but I hope not the last, because it's very interesting for actors. You get more time to explore a character. It's not going to be the 2 hours of a film. The feeling I got with this, when I was finishing episode 9, I had already such a connection, like emotional connection with the character, that I felt like there is no way we could have a season 2. We could not come up with a way to continue because I felt like I had her in me and I wanted to explore more of her and the relationship. So this gives me more hunger, for television, because this is great. When you get to explore a character for so long, it's a different story.
Had you ever considered TV roles before, or was this really your first time even considering doing television?
I did a little bit in Spain one time, but at the beginning of my career. But then I was not offered a lot of TV or something that moved me, or something that didn't require move 3 years to a place and commit, and you only do that. And I have little children, and I could not do that kind of commitment, of long-term commitment. But I would love to do more things like this. And
have you told Ryan Murphy?
We're always telling each other, and I always say, it's a musical. We have to do a musical. And he says, yes. And then the next day, 2 months later, we have the same conversation, but nothing is happening.
Just keep bugging him. So the show tells the story in reverse chronological order, and which is a very unique structure. And some of the actors have talked about how they struggled with it. Like Finn Wittrock, who played Jeffrey Trail, said that he would take the scripts and rip them apart and put them in chronological order. What was that for you, going backwards in time? What was that like for you? Were there challenges, or did you like it?
I think it was more challenging for the people that were working like 1 week and then nothing until a month later, But we were there, it was very intense for a week in Miami and then very intense for 1 month in LA. So, and we did as much as we could things in order. For example, in episode 7, as much as we could, and all of that happens in that year. So I didn't struggle with that. The other characters that go through more years and were there all over the place in the schedule for 5 months, 2 days here, 2 days there, that's harder.
And how did you first discover your love of performing? I read in one interview you said you knew when you were 4 that you wanted to be a performer.
Yeah, because when I was 4 and I had so much energy, they took me to a ballet school. And I realized that I was much happier because I was there for a couple of hours sweating and running, and I really needed that. And then I started to ask the teacher. That I said I wanted to play Carmen, and they told me the story, and I heard Carmen Bisset, and I said that's what I want to do. I want to do that character. And the teacher was always very confused, like why didn't ask for Sleeping Beauty or something more appropriate for a 4-year-old. And I was always like, Carmen, Carmen. So all the way 17 years old that I was dancing, they never gave me the role of Carmen. And that was a big discovery for me, you know, at 4, feeling like, how can I be so obsessed with a character being so little? And later, over the years, through dancing, I understood that this was like eating, like breathing for me. The time that I went to the school and I was able to express my feelings and my fears and things that I was not able to say to anybody, like through these characters. And I felt such a liberation. And then when I was 11 and my father bought a Betamax machine that was, remember, huge, with the tapes were these big, and they gave me a membership, and every day I would rent a movie because we didn't have movie theater around where I lived. So every day I would watch one, and if I liked one, I would watch it 20 days in a row. And of course, there was a lot of Almodóvar and Billy Wilder, Audrey. I discovered all these amazing actresses, and Marilyn, and Anouk Aimée, and Sofia. And I thought, okay, so Almodóvar is my favorite of from all. He lives in my city, and I have to find a way to meet this man, to say thank you, and to try to do a casting for his movies. No? So I went to study theater. I was like around 14. I was doing high school, theater, ballet, and I looked for an agent. And the agent sent me to some castings, and they to my surprise, they gave me the parts. I was completely surprised because to me that was like science fiction, that I could make a living out of that. We didn't know any actors, musicians, nothing. So through this woman, Katrina, who is still my agent today in Spain, and I love her very much, we started to get, you know, Jamón, Belle Époque. Then Pedro called me, all these things that happen in back to back, and I'm still surprised at the way, you know, like the way that I feel very grateful that they've given me so many opportunities to do this job that I love so much.
I read once that your agent, who you just mentioned, that she rejected you 3 times at the age of 14, but you just kept coming back until she signed. How did you get the confidence at that age to advocate for yourself in such a strong way?
I was not scared of anything at that age. I'm much more scared now of everything. And I went there, and she gave me a scene from Casablanca, and I was so upset. I said, how can you give a 14-year-old a scene from Casablanca? Clearly you don't want me here. It's like, what a sabotage. And I did it anyway, and it was so bad. And then the next time I went back, and it was again like some like Tennessee Williams drama, like for a woman, and I was a little girl. And I said, okay. So she sent me home again, and I came back on a 3rd time. I would register with fake names, but then it was me. And then I did an improvisation about invalidation, frustration, dreams, a right to accomplish your dreams. And I was so angry with her, and she was doing the improvisation with me. And after that improvisation, she told me, I saw 300 people this year. I'm not gonna get anybody but you. And she signed me that year, and since then we've been working together. And she's now 80 years old, and is like, but she looks like 50 because she has an amazing energy, this woman. And we've done so much together, and I'm very grateful for her.
That's amazing. Being an actor means dealing with a lot of rejection on a regular basis. What advice do you have for people who are struggling with rejection, and how have you not let it derail you over the years?
I have felt that too in many occasions. I got some yes and a lot of no's also, and it's important to go through those. Also, when you feel like you are already stable in a position where you can choose your characters in your movies, you need to go through those no's, because the hunger has to stay there. The desire to keep working, to keep finding interesting material. If you only get yes all the time, I think it's dangerous for other reasons. Like a friend of mine told me the other day, the key, really the key for happiness is to keep the desire alive in whatever it is, no? And it's true that for acting, it's not easy. Every new character, every new movie is gonna be a complete new challenge. I always feel like if it was the first time. So that keeps you young, keeps you feeling like a student, keeps you feeling like I have no clue what I'm gonna do. It's start again, over and over. But you also deal with the people that are giving you the opportunity to play the interesting material here and there, no, like producers, directors, and I'm very grateful with the offers that I'm getting, especially the last few years. But you can never assume it's always gonna be like this, and if the no's comes, if there is a project I fall in love with and I get no, I know in a way that will be good for me, because too much yes, maybe it's not good either.
So this is a room full of actors. We're in a safe space. Can you tell us about your worst audition ever?
Oh, it's long.
We've got the time.
So I was working in Spain and also starting to work a little bit in France. And so I had my life there, my career, but I wanted to come and work in America also. So I got sent this amazing script with a director that I'm not gonna say his name, I can't, because I don't wanna be the way he was. And they had me working with a teacher for 4 months, working because I spoke very little English. I studied French before, and I started very late with English. So put a coach and say it's almost for sure you're doing the movie. It was a lead in an American movie. It could open a lot of doors for me in that moment. I had not done anything here yet. So they got my ticket to go there to do the final audition, because I did other auditions. Final audition with the actor for the studio. We're gonna film it, the whole crew. No. So when I get there, completely jet lagged, because I was doing another movie in Spain. I get there and say, "Oh, we have to see you in the office," and they give me they want to add something to what is being signed, and it's like, if you want to do the screen test, you have to accept that there are going to be some naked scenes that were not on the script. And I said, okay, why didn't you tell me 24 hours before I got on the plane? Because even if I did movies before that had those scenes, like for example, Jamón Jamón, at that time, I didn't want to go through that. I was 21, I had gone through that, and I felt, you know what, for a few years, I'm just going to say no to whatever my heart is telling me no. There is a reason, because I was very young. And I realized then that I was very young. When I was 16, I thought I was a grown-up woman. So then when I finally realized, I said, maybe I want to protect myself with some things, and I'm not going to do anything that I don't feel. And I was so furious with them, because they didn't tell me, thinking, for sure you're going to sign it. You're coming from Spain. You are extremely excited about this. You haven't worked here yet, never before. So what's the deal? You will sign this. So I said to them, I'm not signing this paper, and I'm gonna do the audition. So then the director stopped talking to me, left the room. He was furious. I called the heads of the studio. I didn't speak English, but in that meeting I spoke English. I said, if you think you can treat people like this, a 20-year-old like this, after doing like this trip by myself, it's the first time I do it, with me it's not gonna work. My family loves me. I'm gonna get back on the plane. And I don't care if I don't do your movie. But you know what? I'm gonna do the screen test. They look at me like something was wrong. So from that conversation, what happened? I did the screen test. The director didn't say a word to me during the 3-4 hours of the screen test with the other actor. We finished. Nobody told me anything. I got on the plane. I knew that I didn't get the movie, but I can tell you today, I am 44 now, is one of the moments where I felt more proud of myself. And I know, in that moment I felt, the day that I die, I will remember this moment, that moment of getting on the plane and looking out the window. And a lot of people telling me, some agents, not all of them, but telling me, this might be the last time you get a chance, because now they are all gonna talk and they're gonna say you're very difficult and you didn't say, okay, I don't care. I'm going back with my family and with my Spanish movie that I continue to shoot on Monday. And I remember the feeling was so special for me. It made me stronger. And I think from that, many other yes have arrived in my life. That was very important. That has been a part of me. So because now everywhere we go, we are asked about abuse of power, with women, and for me that story that I never shared before, but for me that one was important. So that's what I always encourage, when I get asked that kind of thing. It's like, do what your heart feels and don't be afraid, because that will pay off.
It's like you staged your own Time's Up movement like many years before the actual Time's Up movement started.
But I know a lot of my friends were doing very, very strong things in that direction, and fighting for putting people on their places and for values and for respect for women and for men. So it's not something heroic that I did, but for me, because I was so young, for me, giving that step instead of saying, okay, yes, I'm supposed to, I understand. It gave me a lot of strength that has stayed with me all this time.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. And what is the best advice you've ever been given about acting?
I have an acting teacher in Madrid. I have Cristina Rota, who I did 4 years with her, and then Juan Carlos Coraza. And I still prepare almost every one of my characters with him. And he always talks to me about this dance between reality and fiction, and not being afraid of being in and out of the reality and fiction as many times as possible in one day. Because before I had the tendency to, if I had a very demanding scene or emotionally demanding, or I stay in that state for the entire day. And sometimes things can get burned out. You don't give more, you just get to a point where you're empty. And he always talks to me about, it's a dance, go. You're here, you have your reality, and go to that fiction and go deep, go as deep as you can, and then come out and breathe and look at where you are, your life, and in and out, as much as you can all day. And the last few years, I feel like I've been listening more to those words that for me are very wise. And I feel like he helps me a lot with that, because it helps me not to force things too much, to do less tricks and try to be more honest, to try to be less afraid of making big mistakes, because we have to make mistakes and do crazy things and ridiculous things if we want something good to be there sometimes, no? So I really value that, those words.
And finally, I just have to ask, because everything looks so beautiful in the Versace series, was there one particular piece of clothing or wardrobe that Donatella had that you were coveting, or that you maybe accidentally took home?
Well, there were some like cowboy boots, and they were original from that collection, from the dress with the straps, and they were very special. And I said to the costume designer, I said, what are you gonna do with this when we finish? And she said, I knew you were gonna ask me this, they are for you. And they put them in a bag, and so I have them there at home, but it's funny, I feel like kind of scared to wear them, because when I'm at home and I put things on from a character, I start acting weird. The clothes have the smell, the energy that stays on them. I try sometimes to bring clothes, and then I look at them and I'm not brave enough to put them on, because I think something could happen. Something could go wrong.
Well, maybe someday. Thank you so much, Penélope Cruz.
Thank
it was
you.
such an honor to speak to you.
Thank you so much.
And Assassination of Gianni Versace,
Thank you for coming.
can watch on demand on FX.
Thank you very much.